Let's hear what's happening with you, anything you feel like sharing or asking.
There's a great deal for me. And I've been looking for a long time. I've been on a path, but looking for the path. And looking for a miracle to affirm it. And I think what I'm going to say now is about affirmation. And it's gone on for a long time. And I finally went to Bhagwan, and although I knew better, I still wanted to see a miracle. And he said, if you want to see a miracle, go see Sai Baba. And still, I felt I needed some affirmation, and I came here. And since the day I came, I've not seen one, but several every day. And today, if you want to check it out, how did 150 people in one room stop humming all at the same time? And little miracles have happened for me, like Mikhail said, go and talk to people. Tell them where you are with them, and you'll make more room for you to love them. And I've done that. Sometimes with people I didn't want to even be in the same room with, and sure enough, I began to love them. And if that's not enough, I was thinking, before I came here, I saw it and heard it on television. I was watching, I've seen it about 5 times now, a program called Gnostics, The Way of the Heart, or something like that. And in it, there's a Christ figure played by an actor. And he says, if you bring forth that which is within you, you will find your freedom. And if you keep it in you, surely it will destroy you.
Not to bring out what's within us, and that was through our conditioning as children. When we brought it out, usually there was no approval for it, and often punishment. So we've kept it in, and then we've become political and cunning and clever, and when that energy wants to come out, we've stopped it and checked it and edited it and kept most of it back. So when he says, if you keep it in, that will kill you, that's my feeling about how most people die. They die of their unexpressed energy, their unexpressed truth. It is an energy, it is a force, it is a power, and it's not being given its freedom, so it just stays inside and eventually implodes in some way. Now, to come out with your truth isn't safe in this world generally, and what we've done here is create an atmosphere where it's encouraged to bring forth your truth. And as that energy starts to move, you start to heal. You just heal yourself through your own truth. But it takes courage, because all your conditioning is against it. Your conditioning says you'll be punished if you are spontaneous. And what we've been reminding you over and over is, don't check what's there, say it. Share it, let it flow. And if the truth is partial, if the truth is only from half the people and not all the people, then it does make a conflict. Once the truth spreads and everybody's ready to say the truth, a natural harmony takes place. When you move to the truth of each moment, there is a natural harmony and beauty and grace in everything. But it's stepping through that place in you that is conditioned not to do that. If I tell the truth, I will hurt that person, or they will take revenge on me in some way. Then the other person is doing their manipulating, and then all this energy gets built up inside. So it is as simple as that. If you'll just dare to be your truth, moment to moment, then a harmony takes place. Just close your eyes for a moment and just take a look at what you are not being truthful about in your life. Anything, anywhere that you're holding back in some way. You're not sharing yourself totally. Back now, what I suggest is you really take a look at that and finish it today with a phone call, or write a letter, or if it's somebody here, share it with. Finish today so you start 1988 clear. Use today to clear up everything. So if you can't call them, if you can't get in touch with them, write it in a letter and clear everything today. What else?
Yeah. There's one thing that I haven't shared yet, or not with you especially. I've fallen in love so much with the group and with the process, and with myself, that I feel like becoming one of the members of the group. And I wanted to share that with you.
Something is going to happen that is doesn't fit in our normal reference point. It's going to happen during the next 2 or 3 months. And what we're going to be doing from this place is going to be totally different from what we think we're going to be doing from this place. So we're busy making plans that will probably never happen. But it's fun making the plans. So there is, and some of you will sense it, there is something happening here that's not normally describable. And it's going to take a jump quite soon into another level of intensity, and then something is going to happen. And that's taking care of itself. We need to do nothing about that except just be open and available. In the meantime, what we're doing is saying, well, if things continue like this, what are we going to do with ourselves? And what is happening is, right at this moment, several people are going through a change of consciousness. They're leaving the old behind and starting to emerge into the new. And it's a very difficult time because there's a great vulnerability and there's a great sensitivity and there's a great desire to hold on to anything from the past, anything, so that you know who you are and what's happening. And if you're going to go through this transformation, it's not possible to hold on to anything. And then that is a very disturbing time, beyond what most of you think is disturbing. It's a disturbance that you haven't had before. It's not only do you not know what's happening, you don't even know who it's happening to. And everything goes. Everything. Now, of course, the place of light is always there. It's always there. it never went, it never will go. But when you're out of touch with that, or you're not directly connected with it, then this change is very disturbing. And so it's happening to several people here, and once they've gone through it, it'll happen to many more, and very quickly. So these people are in a very delicate place. Lady Kohan's in that place, Volusia's in that place, and some other people are just going through possibly the most difficult time, the most delicate time that can happen in this plane. It's a letting go of the foundation of this dimension, letting it go as reality and opening up to the other realities. Now, it's going to happen in such a dramatic way. After the change, that isn't it. That's the beginning of it. After this transcendence into the next dimension, that's the start of something else. And these people are going to become luminous beings on this planet. They're bringing down that transcendental energy into this plane, and it will be obvious. It'll be obvious by what they say and how they say it and how they move. And when the predictions take place of disturbances on many levels, people are going to be in absolute panic, and they're going to look for some sort of guiding light. And many of the people here, many of you, very soon are going to be those lights. And then what's needed then is for you to tune into your creativity, to see how best and how beautifully and how enjoyably you can share what's happened to you. Now, at the moment, the organization, using the word very broadly, our organization is fluid, and it will probably stay that way. So whatever develops out of here will be a network of self-sufficient units who will be able to call on us and ask us to visit and do the things, be there and help the trainings, but not financially or connected in an organizing way. In other words, each of you need to take responsibility for yourselves. Now, what we'd like to do on this planet is have somebody else in charge. We like having somebody else in charge because they can take care of us, and we've got somebody to complain to when they don't. And then that means we don't really have to do it. And this organization doesn't work like that. Each person is going to be responsible for themselves, whatever they do and however they do it. And usually in an organization there is something to follow. There's a policy, or there's some rules, or there's some guidelines. And the only guideline you have from this place is you and what happens to you. It doesn't matter what happens to me or happens to anyone else. If it hasn't happened to you, it hasn't happened. What I'm encouraging you to do is not follow anybody or anything in any way whatsoever, because that is giving away yourself and it's being lazy. You have within you everything that's available in this universe, but you have to find it. Now, you can have advice and guidance and help, but if you lean on the guidance or the help, it's outside of yourself and you'll never find yourself. Whatever comes, you need to listen and take and look for yourself. If you click with it, it's yours. If you don't, it's still a hypothesis, and you don't know whether it's true or not. If somebody says, I've reached another state of consciousness, you don't know whether that's true or not, unless you've reached that state of consciousness. And if you have, you'll recognize it. Now, you may feel something, you may sense something, you may feel there is something around somebody, but you don't know what's happened until it's happened to you. So you know I say to you over and over, don't believe me. Don't disbelieve me, don't believe me. Take it as a hypothesis and then try it out for yourself. Exactly how our organization is going to be, I don't know. We're just looking at it at the moment. But what I've talked to you about before is getting yourself together in groups and continuing the meditation, which we need to look at, even dropping the word meditation. It has a connotation that meditation takes you somewhere or it does something. I would just say continue sitting together quietly. Not even quietly, just sitting together. Sometimes we hit the gongs and that's not quietly. Just sitting together and being open for what can happen. Now, this is what I suggest, and it's a suggestion, just a loose suggestion. If you stay in touch with the energy that's happening here, what will happen in your groups will happen more easily, because it's happening here. And it's happening here because it's being brought into this plane. It's being brought from these other levels of consciousness. It's being manifested into this plane, and it's more easy to catch it from here than there. So if you stay in touch in some way, you meditate at the same time, keep correspondence going or phone calls going, you just feel that you're in touch. When you've got your centers or communities running, you invite various people to be there who've gone through these levels. You catch it and you'll keep moving. As I talk to you, it's almost as though there is an echo at the same time that's saying something totally different. It's very hard to explain, but you see, the way you think it's going to be, it's not going to be like that. But we've got to pretend it is, because from this place and this dimension, that's what it looks like it's going to happen. Something else is going to happen. It's going to be much easier than you think. As you tune into this energy, which in one way is your own energy, in its refined forms, this is going to be a constant support from you in a way that you couldn't imagine possible. And that's because you are already more than you think you are. The only thing that keeps you out of the way of living in that reality is your attitude about yourself that you've adopted from other people. Just as an illustration from that, if I was to say to you that every single person in this room will be, whatever word you use, whether you're going to use enlightenment, liberated, free, everybody in this room will be in that state tomorrow morning, you know that's not true. You're not even going to listen. Now, if I said to you, if you stay here and we work intensely, in 12 years' time, it'll happen. So you'd think there's a possibility in 12 years. If I said 20 years, there's more of a possibility. Now that is an attitude. That is a program in the mind. Now that I'm the other side of it, I can see it, because now I could see it as it was in myself, and I can see it in you. What I'm telling you is that is an attitude. And what we're doing here is not therapy, and it's not working on you, and it's not purifying. It isn't doing anything. It's trying to trick you out of that attitude, that you think it can't happen yet because. And it's just an attitude. It's just an idea. But you've had this idea drilled into you life after life after life. And it's still being drilled into you. Even now, one of the most advanced disciplines on the planet, which is probably Zen, is still saying to you, you can't even sit properly for 2 years. You can't even breathe properly for 2 years. If you're lucky, you can run them concurrently. If not, it's 4 years before you can sit and breathe. It isn't true. It's never been true, but it's less true now than it's ever been. We are in change. The change is going to happen. And if you'll tune into that change, it can happen very smoothly and very beautifully. If you resist the change, then you'll be in conflict. So Lady Kohan came to my room this morning in conflict. And only because she was resisting the process. That's all. And we just sat for a few moments, and I didn't say much except, all I was saying, just accept what's happening. With the acceptance, it's obvious, it's a process of transcendence. It's quite obvious with the yes. So the conflicts that are happening in you, or the disturbances, are due to your attitude, and therefore you holding on or resisting in some way. If you'll just let it happen, it will happen. You will transform. The process, the program, the mechanism is built in. You built it in before you came into this dimension. And most of you here built it in consciously in the last dimension before you came here. You'd already decided it was going to happen. But the game is, the process is, you have to forget that in this dimension and then relearn it again. And somewhere you all know exactly what I'm talking about until you try to catch what I'm talking about. And then the mind looks at it and it all sounds like nonsense. But without the mind, when you're just listening loosely, you know what I'm talking about. You've glimpsed it, you've felt it, you've had it in your dreams, you've had it in your meditation. And then you want to capture it with your mind. Your mind has been programmed with this other attitude that's keeping you away. There's nothing to do but just keep letting go. Let it happen. Whatever it is, let it happen. Each stage you go through, you become more light. As you become more light, you get into a place that's nowhere. And that's what you get afraid of. It's nowhere. It isn't here and it isn't there. Now, if you think that after you've gone through this, you're going to be there, there's no there. There's no here, there's no there. This other place is not a place. It's not even a dimension. It's an isness. There's no way of explaining that. It's an isness. It's nowhere until it needs to be somewhere. And that's how you got into bodies. Don't try and understand this. You were nowhere doing nothing. There was no substance. There was nothing there to touch. There was nothing. And then, in this nothing, there is a consciousness. And the consciousness decided that this nothing needs to move on in consciousness. What's needed? What's needed is a visit to some school. This is the school, planet Earth. What you need to be in this school? You need to be in a body. That's the way this planet. And you formed this body. You have made this body. You formed it. And many people in this era, many people are going to learn, are going to remember the secret of unforming. Many people are not going to die this time. They're going to ascend. Ascending is you just move back in tunes with the particles that have formed you and let them go. And you're gone. This body's gone. It didn't die, it doesn't lie somewhere and rot or get cooked. It just, it's gone. One way of looking at that process, and again, don't try and understand it, is in each one of your cells there is a reflection of you. In each one of your minute atoms there is a reflection of you. So if you still invest in your anger or your negativity, Each one of your cells carries that particle. It doesn't live in one part, like some of the body workers think, this, we have anger here and we have love here. There are certain centers that tend to accumulate that, but each cell contains your whole. Now one day, when you've let this go and you've let this go, somebody says something that could be upsetting, and you do not go there. The body may get upset, the mind may get upset, the emotions upset, but you do not go there. You let the mechanism run on its own. When that happens, you start to change the cells. One day, your cells become pure love. Pure love, no contamination whatsoever, just purity. At that point, anytime you want, you can ascend. All those cells will just go back to their form, in perfect form. At the moment, they're not in perfect form on this level. And that's because you still invest in something. So if somebody upsets you, instead of you going to the light, you go down to fight. Don't do that, and you just purify yourself. Now, that process can take as long as you like. If any of you, any one of you in here says, from now on, only the light, only that purity, it's already happened. When you have said it totally, it's happened. What you do is you keep a backup. What you say is, totally except if. And that if stops the purity. Except if somebody's going to kill me. Except if somebody's going to kill my child. That if will keep you from purity. When you get to the place with, of course you'll try and stop somebody killing anything or anybody if you can, but you will never go to that negativity to do it. You will never blame that person. You won't support any anger that happens in you. You'll stay in your light. You'll stay in your love. Then you're already home. Once you've made that. Now the body will go through its stuff, and the mind and the emotions will still, because they have to roll down, but you're already home. And each of you can make that decision anytime you want to. And somewhere you know exactly what I'm talking about. But to do that, you've got to let go. Let go of everything, everybody, and everything in every way. You have to let go. And that's your choice. And you'll find when you come to the last phases, you'll hold on to the most silly things. Anything to hold on to. Because when you don't, you're gone. And you'll find that as soon as that yes is made, you're blessed. And everything you do is blessed. So, I said to Akale the other day, I just said to him, I had this flash that Kiala should be wearing your emerald, which is probably one of the closest things to him at the moment. It rates even higher than the computer, I think. He just took it off, like that. And I said to him another time, well, if we're going to do this, we're all going to have to put all our money in, because I don't want anybody in part. He says, sure, like that. That yes takes you home. Just keep saying yes and yes and yes, you're home. If you keep anything yes and yes, except if you get too close to that, then you're not going to go home. You're holding something. Close your eyes, take a look at what's happening. You keep your eyes closed. I'm going to remind you again. Your options are being removed. Very soon, money won't be worth anything. What you call security won't be available. They're going to be removed. The game is, can you detach from them first? Are you going to wait to have them wrenched away? Okay, come back again. Let's hear what's happening with you.
I hope I can remember the words on Monday, because I keep seeing this meeting that I have to face on Monday morning. And I will try to remember what you said to try and keep with this kind of rawness that I feel now. Mm-hmm. And
well, at the moment, you are creating your hell based on Monday. You see, what you're saying is, I have a choice about Monday, and the choice is it goes the way I want it to go. You've created your hell. Because somehow you're going to do something to make it the way you want it. Now, your wanting is from your neurosis. You have no idea what you need. Existence knows exactly what you need. Your higher self knows what it needs. You may need that meeting to fail in some way you don't understand. Because, just something silly, if it fails, you get out. If you get out, you pull your money out. And you don't know that the company's going to collapse. You see, all sorts of things that you can't possibly store in there. Not with the greatest experts and the biggest computers. You can't carry all the information. You don't know what you need, you only know what you want. If that meeting didn't go right, you might take an unexpected holiday. You might do something that keeps you away from death in some way. You don't know what you need. Now, if you go in with your tension to make that meeting work, you may make it work, but it costs you something with that tension. And even if it works, it won't work. You go in not knowing. If it works, bliss arises. It was a gift. You didn't do anything. If it doesn't work, it won't make any difference. But what I'm talking about is letting go. That you do not know. The only thing you have is what ability you have to be present each moment. I can give you practical examples of that. I heard you're in advertising, is that right? Many years ago, Claire and I arrived in Hong Kong with no money and no job. And I decided I wanted to go into advertising because it was about one of the few things I hadn't done. Eventually I became the top executive on the island. I was handling the biggest account. And they were the most uptight British company. They still wore ties in the heat of the day in Hong Kong. And to get the job, I had to play the game. Halfway through the job, I didn't care whether I kept the job or not, because I'd got enough money and I was ready to move on. So I started to let go. As I let go, they wanted me more. Because there was a let go in me. And things started to happen around that. And the more I didn't care, the more they wanted me. And when I really left, they offered me just an incredible contract to stay because of the let go. I was still present, I was still sincere, and I was still total in what I was doing, but I didn't worry about the outcome. I didn't worry whether they bought the scheme or not. It has an effect. When you want it, you might get it, but it creates tension around it, and you're always having to defend it. But of course it has to be a real let go. It's no good playing let go. And one of the things that success does, it keeps tempting you off the path. The other thing is, don't try and remember anything, because that's in the mind. Just open, and if you're open, you'll hear what you need to hear. You'll say what you need to say. You'll never need anything written. It'll just come to you appropriately. It might be unexpected.
can't be that easy.
So, how long is it going to take for you? 12 years, 20 years, 50 years? It's just as easy as you make it. It can be now. And somewhere you know that. You know what I'm saying. You know that if you got to that place of total let go, you'll be in total freedom. You know that. And then you have free will. You can do what you like with it. But what I would say to you is, many of us on the planet at this time, we've done a lot of work in other dimensions and other planets. And we came here to do something. And so we are very potential people. When you come here, you forget what you came for. And so you can move that potential into making money, or acquiring things, or becoming famous. But you are misusing your talent. There's nothing wrong in it. The thing is, you're going against your own promise to yourself. And again, don't take it what I say, sit with it, look at it, open up to it. What wants to happen through you? What really wants to happen with those talents? Anything else to share?
I feel at this moment that there's a big change happening in me. I feel I was never so strong then at this time, because I always thought that I was a very weak person, very sensitive, and I always thought that I needed very much help to do anything. And just now I feel that I feel very strong, and I feel that I am very true at the moment with myself, because I discovered that I'm not that person I used to be.
One of the things you have to look at is staying awake. When somebody's sensitive and they go on overload, they tend to go to sleep to keep out of trouble, or be a way that other people want them to be, just to make some space. And it takes courage to be yourself and to stay present with that, to stay truthful with that. So one of the things I suggest to you is, if you find yourself spacing out or not being absolute here, find a way to wake yourself up and be here. More and more, be present with yourself.
I just wanted to share my incredibly deep appreciation to all of you here for being here and having me come here over this past year. And it's like, for me, for the first time that I can remember, that I've been able to share my heart so totally. And I just feel so much love and so much support from all of you, and I just love you so much.
As you were talking, I was getting a picture of the cat. And this cat that's around here is getting drunk with love. Now, one of the reasons it's getting drunk with love is because it is allowing itself to be loved. And that's very rare. When you were talking, what I was seeing is you have lived in a place where people have not accepted your love. And so you've learned to do something else with it. And I've often seen cases in the past with Volusia the same. She loves that person, but the person doesn't know what to do with that. It's too much. They think they've got to return it, or there's some contract, and so they don't take it in. And you take a look at your life, you're not allowing that. You don't allow yourself to be loved as much as somebody wants to love you. Because all sorts of conditions, you don't think you're worth it or worthy of it. You don't think they can possibly see you. If they could really see you, of course they wouldn't love you like that. And so you keep that away, and in the process you're starving and the other person is frustrated because it's not flowing from them as it is naturally. What's happening with the cat is it just absorbs it. It just takes it. In the process, what I've seen with many of you, not only is the cat becoming drunk with the love that it's taking, but something's happening to you too, because this cat is taking it unconditionally. I see a different look on your face when you're with the cat. So you take a look at that flow of energy. It's just truth again. So often you feel something very beautiful for somebody, you don't express it because you think they're going to do something with it, or it's not going to match, or instead of just, if you feel it, express it. If somebody expresses it, open up and absorb it. This energy is purifying, it's healing. And then there's all sorts of things that go on between men and women, that if a woman takes that from the man, then the man's going to expect this, and so on. Stay with your truth and none of that will happen. Just keep staying with your truth. If you want to be with somebody, tell them. If you don't, say no. Just stay with your truth. What you need to look at is how are you going to keep that flowing. Not only what you're getting, but what you're giving. How are you going to support and nourish that flowing? If people are not absorbing, you need to have it flowing anyway.
I'm quite surprised sometimes the checkout person at the grocery store, you know, because I have this going out energy. And all of a sudden it's like they suddenly go, or the person that I'm buying gasoline on.
And then you have no idea of the effect of that. It changes them a little bit, and they meet the next person and it changes and changes and changes and each one of those smiles just echoes and echoes and echoes. And normally we not only don't smile, we don't see each other. Most people never see that checkout person. They're not even a human being. They're so busy with how much the stuff is costing and can they afford it and what will happen and so on. They don't even see that person. And the other person isn't seeing back. Just see somebody once. And that can go on deeper and deeper here, the same. Seeing each other freshly each time. When you see somebody, see them. Don't see the person you saw yesterday or even an hour ago. See this person now. You've changed, they've changed.
Sometimes, even when I come to a person, I panic before I can even think what I feel like I've been cut off comes. And I just sort of totally paralyzed. I want to make contact, and I just don't even make contact because I don't know what to say.
Right. And that's because there's some built-in fear of you from conditioning. But what you're saying in that is, therefore it's wrong and I should do something else. What I'm suggesting is, you be as you are. If you feel drawn to somebody, go there. Even if you become paralyzed, go there. It might be different. One day it might just change. But if you're paralyzed, be paralyzed. If you can say something, tell them you're paralyzed. But what I'm suggesting is the truth will work if you share your truth. If you try and do anything with it, the person picks up the doing something. They don't know what's going on, but they know you're doing something. If you just go there with your innocence, with your straightness, it'll have an effect. It'll invite them to be themselves. And they might say, well, when you came up, I felt afraid because I thought you were going to say something to me and I didn't know what I was going to say back. You share your truth.
Paul, there is something that I would like to tell you or to ask to you. And it is that I feel sometimes very coward to express myself, what I feel deeply down. It's not happening many times, but sometimes there is some point where I feel I don't have the courage to say where I'm missing it.
Well, you do have the courage. You have everything you want to have. What you're saying is, I'm not going to do that because. It's the because. And what I'm saying is, be totally without conditions. Say, I don't know what's going to happen out of this, I'm going to do it. You make it into an adventure or into a game. A sort of challenge to yourself. And forget what happens after. It doesn't matter what happens after. It doesn't matter if the end of the world is after. You're going for that moment. And then you've got to see that you have many conditions that are against that. All sorts of conditions from society and your family. It's all against that. But that's wonderful. If there were no handicaps, it would be boring. It would all be so simple. It's the handicaps that make the fun. If you could walk up to everybody and say anything you wanted to, some of the fun would go out of life. Just imagine if you could walk up to every beautiful woman you wanted to walk up, and she would say yes, and you went to bed and had perfect sex every single time. It'd be so boring. The fun is you don't know whether they're going to say yes or no. Slap your face, turn away, jump in your arms, you don't know what's going to happen. That's the fun of it. And then there's no time, you don't know whether anything's going to happen after that or not going to happen after that or how it'll be. You don't know. This is what makes the fun in life, not knowing. I've used this illustration before. Just imagine that you go to Volusia and she reads your palm and she tells you exactly what's going to happen every day for the rest of your life, to the moment you die. Exactly the way everything's going to be. Boring. No spice. It's that not knowing, that challenge to yourself. And every time you go through one of those, you've expanded. Something's become bigger. That's what this planet's about. It's about experiencing to expand. Every time you have an experience, doesn't matter whether it's a good one or a bad one, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, doesn't make any difference. Every time you have an experience, you've expanded. So you see somebody and you feel you don't have the courage to express that love. Stop in that moment and say, aha, here's my pattern. Now what am I going to do this? Am I going to do what I normally do? No experience in that. Or am I going to try something new? Maybe just one step. New experience, new expansion. More fun.
Well, the point for me is not to say something difficult to somebody that I can say easily, even if I don't know. But when you have to say something which is not nice, at least it's not nice inside me. I don't know if it's just I'm projecting over that person. But
if you hold it, it'll build up and it'll be a tension. And when you tell them, it'll come out zap. Because you're not telling them from that moment. You're giving them your year's last experience all in one package. They go on overload and just throw it right on back. If in each moment you just share what's there, it'll come out appropriately. It'll be your truth. They might not like it because they resist it, but there'll be really nothing to fight in you because there's no built-up. It's just your truth. And you're just saying, this just happened. And it's really just this. Not, and you did that yesterday and the day before, and my mother used to do that, and just this. So the sooner you get on with it, the sooner you'll clear out the backlog in your system. Today's a good day, it's the end of the year.
To say that
I'm so scared to talk, to say something, but it's so wonderful to be scared. That's
The fear, the scariness, is usually a no, resistance. So it turns into fear. If you move into yes, it becomes excitement. The same energy. And how we started right at the beginning was, if you hold energy, it'll damage you. If you release it, it becomes ecstasy. So it's actually dangerous to hold it. So you keep getting these little warnings on the bottom of the cigarette advertising. Smoking is dangerous to your health. But a lot of the danger is when you smoke, you suppress. You smoke in order not to feel something else. And it's what you suppress that is most dangerous. It's what you hold back and hold down.
I feel very much like changing all the time. I felt a few days ago like an octopus, and today I had this picture of a very old tree, and I was a little leaf, and I didn't want to go away because the tree was here.
Coming back to his question was about joining here. What we're looking at is how to support what's happening to you here and help it to continue. So if you get yourselves organized into some sort of community where you meet regularly, then some of us can come round and be with you and help that to grow.
For me, the whole thing of the last few days seems to be hit and miss. And this morning I was somewhere checking out how I was doing what we call the meditations, and the image that was with me was like a newborn seagull, except the fluff had gone and I actually did have feathers. And when I tried to walk, I'd take one or two steps and then I'd fall over, and then I'd stand up again and take one or two steps and it'd be okay, and fall over again. And even in that, the being, because I had no idea how a seagull thinks, knew it could fly and was seeing people around it flying, and so it kept getting up again and taking one or two steps.
Close your eyes with that. You can fly. Just feel it. You can fly. And somewhere you know that. You can fly. Now it's not quite as simple as the new seagull, because the new seagull doesn't have anything to unlearn. You have to unlearn the conditioning that says human beings don't fly. You can fly, and you will fly. When depends on you.